Hello, it's Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Today again with MMA Fighter Colby Thicknesse, talking about a big fight coming up on the weekend, UFC 268 Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. Pretty big one, man. Another exciting rematch.
Yeah, I think this definitely has another sort of epic fight sort of foreshadowed all over it. I think it's going to be sort of similar to the last fight, and I think we're in for a treat with this one.
Man, I rewatched the fight. I did watch it before, but I rewatched it yesterday, and it was a very, very close fight, man. You know, like even though Colby ended up getting kind of stopped, it would look like a bit of an early stoppage, I think, and it was just so close. He actually wobbled Kamaru more than he got wobbled when you look through it, you know, pretty objectively. I think he actually got the better of a lot of combos through the fight, although he absorbed a lot of punishment as well. He also landed some pretty like rocking blows to Kamaru.
Yeah, spot on, man. Like, I was fortunate enough, I was actually at the arena for that fight live because that's when Volko first fought Max. But because Volko fought beforehand, I didn't actually get to see the fight sort of play out because of all the backstage stuff we had to do. So I was sort of watching it now and then. But even just hearing like the reaction, like about everybody backstage, and like you have people like Volko's in mid interviews, and you stop and you watch the fight because these two were just throwing down. Like, it was an insane rematch. I sort of had the same sort of opinion. I thought it was 2-2 going into that fifth. And I thought he did, until he got finished, I thought he was getting the upper hand a bit, not so much of a volume in that, but he did have sort of more significant moments compared to Usman.
It was pretty crazy because like he looked like the third round, like, oh shit, he's gone now. Like he just looked like he was going downhill. And then suddenly he just had an extra boost in the fourth round and went hard. And then the fifth round, he started really strongly too. Thought, man, this is so close. Like I wouldn't have been able to call who won that if it went to the end. I wouldn't have been able to call it. It was just too tight, you know, because you don't know how the judges are really seeing it, you know, from their angle compared to watching it on the TV. But it was so tight, like nice volume by Chaos. And Kamaru had the better power shots, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And like you're saying, it's hard to judge because it's so easy as a spectator watching through a TV screen. Like, we can sort of get a bit better view, and we're not going to be as swayed as the crowd makes it to be. Because especially when you watch live fights, you know, it's like if there's a crowd favorite, that person could land a jab and the crowds erupts. Colby's not a favorite, so every time Colby would land something, it was probably a bit quieter because everyone sort of was anti-Colby. Every time Usman would have landed a jab, it would have been a massive pop sort of thing. So I think that can really sort of play impact into how judges see the fight. So it would have been interesting to see if it did go the distance, who would have came out on top with the decision. But like you said, it was hard for Colby after that third round. He broke his jaw. I'm pretty sure it was in the third or the fourth he broke it. And he had to keep on fighting with that. And then Usman just found the finishing shots to put him away.
Yeah, man. And looking at Kamaru, or should I say Marty from Nebraska, I always think of that guy. You know, Ben Askren was saying back in the wrestling days that his name was too difficult for the coach. So the coach just said, we're just going to call you Marty. So he was known in the wrestling scene as Marty from Nebraska, quite different from Kamaru Usman, you know, now the African, the Nigerian nightmare, you know, different sort of name. When you compare these guys though, like they're not that dissimilar in history, right? And age and everything. Like they're only 1 year age difference. Kamaru is 34 versus 33. Kamaru's got a 3 centimeter height advantage, but a 10 centimeter reach advantage, which if he uses it correctly could help him a bit. And you could see him landing some of those straight punches. Kamaru was an NCAA D2 wrestler. Colby's a D1 wrestler. Their records even aren't that dissimilar, like 20 fights for 19 wins for Kamaru versus 18 fights for 16 wins for Colby, against heaps of the same guys, man. And they both have heaps of decisions to their name. They both have like 9 and 8 decisions respectively, you know. So they're very, very tight anyway, with their history, with their age, with their build, and then with their record. It's kind of a very tight fight, just on paper even.
Yeah, exactly right. These two guys are very similar. Even their stylistically, a perfect example is because they have the same common opponents. You look at someone like Maya or Woodley, and Kamaru and Colby, they both pretty much did the exact same thing to both of them. Like Usman just took Woodley down, dominated him on the ground. Colby ended up just sort of lots of volume and pace on her feet, and then took him down. And then I know Woodley got with that rib injury or something that stopped it. But even then, Colby was all over him. Was pretty much just like the Usman fight all over, which is why I think this rematch is going to be sort of so interesting, because who knows, they might both come out and try to strike how they did in the first fight, or now they're both swapped teams, they might have different game plans. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of them or even both of them do take a wrestling heavy approach. But however, they probably, with the bad blood in that, they might just want to get out there and swing for fences for 25 minutes again.
Yeah, man, they kind of just stood in front of each other and smashed each other, right? Like it wasn't really a striking clinic. It was just like battle of the toughest wrestlers that don't want to wrestle. It's kind of
exactly right. Yeah, so it's cool to see, because Usman was Stanford for that fight, and Colby was ATT. Now Colby's at MMA Masters, and Usman's with Trevor Whitman. So it's going to be cool to see how it's sort of, this fight is a rematch of having two sort of same stylistic guys. Like if you look at Usman, his strike leaps and bounds, compared to where you look at Colby, he fought Woodley after, and it wasn't sort of new and improved Colby, which is sort of a bit concerning, I would say, if you are rooting for Colby, to see, you can see Usman levels and the growth and the progression he's made in the last sort of couple of months, the last year or two, over the sort of course into the last fight, whereas Colby has sort of stayed the same, I think.
Yeah, man. So Kamaru joined with Whitman in 2020. And before that, his boxing is okay. Like he uses a bit of head movement and feints, which is what Colby doesn't really use. But he doesn't use any footwork at all before. This is before. And now you have a look at his later fights under Whitman. He's starting to use his footwork more like for kind of evasion and moving out and moving around and coming back in. Like he definitely using his footwork a lot better. Before it was always just straight lines, straight in, straight out. Now he's moving around, getting angles, which he wasn't getting before. So that's something that could help him a bit. But what I'd like to see for him is not just that, because what he's kind of like piecing it together. So before it was straight in, straight out. Now he moved to the side and attack and come back out. He moved to the side and attack. So he's using straight angle and sort of stepping to the side angle, which gives him a different sort of versatile attack. But I'd like to see him actually mix it in with the combination. So come in, when he lands a big punch, step to the side and angle and punch again, like, because he's just still moving, coming in, coming out. He's not really he hasn't really adapted to using the angle in the last fight anyway. Against Masvidal, you can see him using that lateral movement, but he's not using it within a combination. He's just using it before a combination, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So, yeah, I get what you mean. Whereas he needs to, especially against someone like Colby, who's definitely going to have a sort of smart game plan, because MMA Masters is a good gym in that, and they're going to be solely focused on Usman. I think they're going to have them sort of reads where they're going to sort of study the tape. They're going to see how Usman's tendency is to, how he likes to come in, how he likes to exit, and what different ways. And if he can, like you said, come in, get a lateral angle, and then go again sort of thing, and continue his combinations from the outside, it's really going to sort of start at Colby if Colby is just training for Usman to come sort of laterally and throw the counters as he comes in. But the same thing can be said for Colby. He's still sort of, he doesn't really aim to knock anyone out with his punches, but he's trying to land the 4, 5, 6 punches combinations. He's got a good front kick, so it's going to be a very sort of interesting style matchup to see how it plays out.
Yeah, man. I just wrote down a couple of the strengths and weaknesses of both of them. For me, obviously, Usman's got a mad chin. Like he gets cracked and he just keeps going. He seems like to be a better athlete. Like he can switch hit. And he adapts to what Whitman's teaching him pretty well. He seems the strongest in the straight punches against Colby because he's got that little bit of extra reach, like nice jab and cross. Slightly more calculated with his boxing, has feints, head movement, like I mentioned, a bit of evasion. Wrestling pedigree is kind of similar. The weaknesses, I would say, he's got a lot of injuries, and he seems slightly slower than Colby in the early part of the fight, especially just a little bit slower, more powerful, but a bit slower. Whereas I'm looking over at Colby, mad work rate. Like he had that little lull in the third, but he just has a crazy work rate, like nonstop. Quite dangerous with some of the high kicks, which he presented in the early part of the fight as well. His intestinal fortitude and will to win's pretty fucking amazing. The way he just keeps driving. Bit faster than Usman. Kind of slick with the boxing as far as the just little reflexes goes. He's not really like you said, he's not really developing his boxing, maybe not with the right people or something, but he's kind of slick with like fast counters with jabs and stuff sometimes. Weakness seemed to be the body work might have tied him out a little bit, broken jaw or whatever, no angles on his boxing, man. Any comments on that stuff?
Yeah, no, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head covering the sort of things with both of them. And it's like, I think it's hard to say how it's going to play out because both of these guys are probably two of the best example of guys who are just willing to die in there and just have that like non-stop will to win. Like, I don't think like for some fans now, I don't think they understand like it does hurt a lot to get punched in the face. And then imagine having your jaw broken and then fighting a specimen like Usman for another 2.5 rounds, knowing your jaw's broken, and every time it gets hits, like you said, just the sort of that will to win and that drive. It's sort of you can't teach that sort of thing. It's just, and it's with Usman too. Like even though against the Burns fight, Burns I don't think had the smartest strategy after he dropped him. He really regained his composure, sort of shook off the cobwebs, and just got back to the game plan. Just got that sort of mentality stuck back in, worked behind his straight punches, and ended up finishing Burns 2 rounds later. So it's going to be a sort of really exciting matchup. I do hope they do show some sort of wrestling because I just want to see these two because honestly I think it's a coin flip of who's a better wrestler. I think Colby may have the better scrambles and a bit more speed, but like you said, Usman's just an athletic freak and also the strength. He looks physically stronger. He may not be, but I think if they do clinch up against a fence that, Usman would be the stronger guy there. So if it goes to the fence I think Usman may have the advantage. But who knows? Colby may just be able to scramble and sort of get the work rate like that. So I hope it's more of a sort of, don't get me wrong, the last fight was amazing, entertaining, but I would want to see more of an MMA fight purely just from a fan perspective. Like I want to see Usman double up his punches, shoot in for takedowns, and then I want to see Colby defend scrambles and just see like a really good MMA fight. Whereas these two guys using all they can against each other. So instead of just standing in that sort of phone box and fighting, they're trying to mix it all together and sort of use as many tools as they can to win.
Yeah, man, it'd really shake it up if they actually wrestled for a change, right? Even if they just mix it up a little bit, because like you saw Usman when he fought his last fight against Masvidal, he actually dropped a couple of down like he's taking the leg, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. And that even just doing that, which they didn't do at all in their fight, it just gives them something to think about and opens up to other attacks, right? So it'd be good if they did actually mix it up rather than just having a kickboxing fight or pretty much a boxing fight it turned into, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Like we're all MMA. Like don't get me wrong, everybody that fight has the same rewatch value. Like everybody's going to rewatch it. But just that sort of pure MMA fan in me, I just want to see these two. I want to see them fight. I want to see them wrestle. I want to see them against a cage. I want to see Usman working off his back. I want to see Colby working on his back. I just want to see it all, and I think it's just going to be like a. But if that happens, I think it's going to be. I think it could, especially with the scrambles and that, blow the first fight out of the water, sort of thing.
Okay, man. So what's your final pick on who's going to win and how will they do it? What's their strategy example?
Man, this is hard. As much as he talks a lot of shit, I am a fan of Colby, but purely off what we have seen, if we saw more activity from Colby, I would be more confident in picking him. But I have to purely go with Usman. We saw the leaps and bounds he's made work with someone like Trevor Whitman. We saw the improvements in the footwork. His striking's improved, whereas we haven't seen enough from Colby. I do think unless it's another sort of situation where Colby gets like a broken jaw or a broken orbital or something like that, where he really cops some severe damage, I don't think he's the type of guy who's going to be put away too comfortably sort of thing. I feel like he's going to be a lot more aware on the feet than someone like a Jorge or someone like that. So I'm just going to go Usman by a decision.
Yeah, man. Like I feel the same way. I feel like his work with Whitman will have him because he was close. They were very close with the stand-up. And I think if you add in an angles where he hits and he moves and he hits again, I think you can outwork him with hard punches anyway. And so all I think he has to do is incorporate those angles and stay more calculated rather than just smash and bash them, stand in front of each other, which I think Whitman will encourage him to do. However, on that, the fight was so close last time. If they add in wrestling, it just mixes it up again. We're going to have no idea because Colby was dangerous for every second of that fight pretty much. He was landing hard punches from the beginning to the end at times. And if he throws in a few calf kicks or something too, which his trainers might tell him to do, smack out Kamaru's little skinny lower legs, he might do some damage too. So we never know. But yeah, I'm going the same. Obviously, they have heaps of decision wins. Colby's not easy to take out, so I'm thinking Kamaru by decision as well.
Also, one last note is worth mentioning that Trevor Whitman does have to coach 3 fighters on that night. So I'm not sure how that, if it will add anything, it may not, but it will be interesting to see. So say like if Gaethje loses and Rose loses, if that will affect Usman's mentality, or like even just warming up the back, because when Usman, when Whitman's obviously going to be out with Rose, Usman's not going to have his coach back there for the sort of finishing a warm up and stuff like that. Just something different. It might throw spinning works. It might not, but I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, true. It's an extra little area that might affect them a bit, right? Make it a bit more stressful or something. Who knows? Cool. All right, bro. Thanks for your time again.
No worries, bro.